What I love about cybersecurity. Go.
I love winning. I love it when we manage to stop something, stop a hack, or really, really annoy somebody on a server who's trying to take over a system. I just love winning.
It's time to begin the CISO Series podcast.
Welcome to the CISO Series podcast. My name is David Spark. I'm the producer of the CISO Series, and joining me as my co-host, it's Andy Ellis, the principal over at Duha. Andy, say hello to the audience.
Good afternoon, folks, or depending on when you are in the world, good morning, good evening, or good night.
We are available at CISOseries.com, where you can find lots of our other wonderful programming. We have 4 other shows on our network. Why not explore and listen to some other wonderful programming?
Because this is the best program.
At this very moment, while people are listening, this is exactly what they should be listening to, nothing else.
Yeah, only when you're done can you go listen to the other ones.
Our sponsor for today's episode, a phenomenal supporter of the CISO series. We adore them. They adore us. It's a mutual love and appreciation for each other. It is ThreatLocker. Meet the world's leading zero trust platform. Allow what you need. Block everything else by default, including ransomware and rogue code. That is ThreatLocker. We're going to be talking more about the cool stuff they're doing. You're going to want to listen to that a little bit later in the show. But before I introduce our guest, who is from ThreatLocker, Andy and I just saw each other in Boston because we did a live show in Boston, which will be airing actually shortly after this episode. And the reason I coordinated this, Andy, and I think I told you, is because I went to my high school reunion.
That's right, folks. If you want to sponsor a live show, all you have to do is figure out where David wants to be.
That helps. But this was all sort of coordinated back in November of last year. But I hadn't stepped on my campus since I was 18 years old.
Oh, goodness.
I went to an all-boys prep school in Boston. And I think what's interesting, first of all, have you attended like a college or a high school reunion yourself, Andy?
Nope.
None.
Nope.
Have you?
I left and have not been back. I mean, I've been back on my college campus because it's right down the street, but I didn't do the reunions.
Well, I think what happens when you don't see people for decades, the game becomes who has fallen apart most. And, and it's just like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen to you, kind of a thing. But then there's some people who keep it together, and it's great.
Yeah, I think what I love best about this is all the winning, David.
Yeah, it goes back to the winning thing. So that becomes quite amusing. Like, well, you were an athlete at one point. I guess things have changed. Now,
just a little bit.
Things have changed. Anyways, it was thrilling to see everybody, but it was just sort of a shock when you don't see people for that long. And because people change after they turn 18, I've noticed. It does happen.
Just a little bit, I hope.
Just a tad.
I hope that people change after they turn 18. Let's put it that way.
I would hope so. And slightly mature.
Yes.
All right, let's get to today's show at hand because we're not going to be talking about my reunion. If someone wants to call me and talk to me or email me about my reunion, happy to chat with them about that later. But let's not waste any more time here. It's a guest we've had on many times before. We adore him. He supports us. We support them. It is the CEO of ThreatLocker, our sponsored guest, Danny Jenkins. Danny, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Once again, we've got identity issues.
Quote, authorization is not the same as appropriateness. A perv Garg tries to cut through the identity is the perimeter consensus. He points out that IAM, Identity Access Management, can confirm an agent was allowed to access the system, query something like a salary database, and join it with performance reviews, but it can't tell you whether it should have. Agents need broad standing permissions to function at all, access patterns we'd never grant a human employee, or at least never admit to doing. So I'm going to start with you, Andy. If least privilege breaks agentic workflows, and we're talking about agentic workflows versus actual humans as identities, what does appropriate access governance even look like? And how do you enforce policy against behavior you can't predict in advance? I mean, because agents don't have predictable behaviors, do they?
Well, humans don't have predictable behavior. Let's actually start from that problem.
Well, more than agents, I would say that.
No. I actually think agents are far more predictable than humans.
Okay.
Agents will take all of the permissions they have and go use them. The human challenge is humans don't use most of their permissions because we give people way too broad permissions because we don't understand what people do. The core of the problem is we don't actually govern identity or authorization, however you want to look at that. What we do is we sort of say, oh, like Danny has just come into the organization. Let's just clone somebody else's permissions and give them to Danny. Nobody actually knows what Danny's job's going to do. He changes from one organization to another. So we leave all of his old permissions there while he goes over in case he gets called. And over the course of 15 years at a company, Danny ends up with access to everything, but he's never using it. Then Danny goes and deploys an agent, and the agent's like, oh, I have access to these things, and I could probably use that in answering some question, so I'm going to grab access to everything. And that's just a key piece of it, which is the thing we've never solved, which is governance over what people do, because we don't know what they do. Authorization and permissioning is just the shadow reflection of what the business needs the person to do, but we don't understand that. So instead, we treat it like a ground truth. We give it lots, and then agents just abuse it. So this is not me saying this problem isn't worse. This is me saying this has always actually been the worst problem we have. Now it's just gotten even worse.
So, Danny, part of the core philosophy at ThreatLocker is this default deny approach. And by default, you limit privileges, yes, or just limit a lot of things beyond just privileges.
So I think it's really about allowing what you need and nothing else.
Right.
And humans, obviously, they tend to collect privileges over time. You're right. And one of the things that we often do is look at those and say, here is a privilege that hasn't been used for 3 years. This shouldn't be here anymore because it's not currently being used. The problem with agents is not they're more or less predictable. The problem with agents is they're much, much faster at causing chaos. And a human, if they start stealing data or uploading data to the internet, they tend to do it quite slowly. If they decide they're going to delete something, they tend to do it quite slowly. And you have some kind of chance of detecting it before it becomes bad. Agents do it very, very quickly and sometimes very wrongly.
So, well, then how then does the least privileged behavior or the way you monitor it, if you're dealing with agents that are moving at a much faster speed than humans, how does this change? I mean, how does speed come into the equation, I guess, is my question.
So I think the first thing is, just like a human, you have to start off. People have given agents more power than humans in many cases. And if you look at some of these AI tools, they're just asking for absolutely everything out of the box. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be saying, why does this need this permission? Why does it need access to these files? Why does it need access to the internet? What does it need access to on the internet? So that's step one. And then the second step is checking what you have given access to and just reviewing it again periodically to say, is there still a valid reason for this agent to get access? Part of the problem with agents as well is there's no accountability. So as a human, if I hire somebody and I bring them into my business and they do something wrong, there is a consequence for doing something wrong. Now, the consequence may be worse for the business than it is for the individual. But in most cases, if they intentionally steal data, upload something to the internet, they're going to go to jail, they're going to get fired, something like that. With agents, they can just do things without any consequence. So you have to almost put more constraints around it, because what you have is the most...
And also the agent itself, you should also throw in there, the agent itself doesn't have a conscience. So it's not stopping itself or regulating itself.
No, it doesn't have any conscience. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be reasoned with. And it will do whatever it thinks is the appropriate thing to do. And that could be deleting a database. It could be uploading files to the internet. It could be encrypting files.
What about this AI security challenge?
Quote, we just deployed more attack surface in 12 months than we built in the previous decade, end quote. After seeing a surfeit of MCP servers with no authentication and a bevy of malicious skills in the LLM marketplaces in just a month, Caleb Sema of White Rabbit has a simple diagnosis: repeating the cloud mistake. But this makes me wonder if this is a mistake or this is just a pattern. New technology deploys. Businesses wait to see if it sticks. Once it does, startups scramble to build solutions. Buyers spend months evaluating vendors who are barely less green than they are. So meanwhile, attackers don't wait for procurement cycles. So, I mean, by the way, this sounds like the whole cybersecurity industry. So I got to ask you, Danny, first. How should security leaders think about protecting infrastructure when the vendor ecosystem securing it doesn't yet exist? Or is as nascent as they are?
So I don't necessarily think it doesn't exist. I think the problem is the way we've looked at security for the last 3 decades is about finding a threat and responding to that threat. And that is definitely part of security. But the reality is, even when we think about going back to the early 2000s, you get an email servers. They were all open relay because we came up with this great technology email. We all wanted to make it as simple as possible. So you'd put an SMTP server out on the internet. You'd allow it to send email to anyone. Very, very quickly, people started abusing servers. And then we created these lists of bad email servers and we'd start listing them on it. And then eventually people stopped leaving their servers as open relays. And today, if you see an open relay, it's very, very rare. I think the problem is we go out and say, let's open up this technology to the whole world. And we want to do it as fast and simple as possible. And that is the pattern. Like, how do I get it as fast and simple as possible? The security mechanisms haven't really changed that much. I mean, like blocking things, only allowing what you need, it hasn't changed. But what happens in the interim is we stuff it with this detection and response to try and allow us to move faster.
Right.
And then we go back and ultimately come to this realization, oh, we shouldn't have open relays on the internet. We do need usernames and passwords on our accounts. We do need dual-factor authentication. And in the meantime, we were just, let's just throw it out there with nothing. Then let's put some security. Then let's put some detection and response around it. And then let's put some real security where it's actually effective.
All right, Andy, I want to throw this to you. Do you think what we're seeing with AI is really just an echo of what we've seen when new sort of technologies rise and we're not kind of prepared for it? Or is this a very different structural change?
Oh, no. So I absolutely think this is exactly what happened with cloud. It's what happened with internet. It's what happened with web. And it is not a mistake. So sorry, Caleb, I have to disagree with you very strongly. And if Caleb wants to make me agree with him, he can take me out to dinner because his wife is a fantastic cook. If you have not gotten to eat at Fang.
She has a great restaurant.
I did for the first time this year at RSA, and I will happily go back.
So wait a second. Let me just pause there. So the new way of engaging with Caleb is to essentially taunt him to take you to his wife's restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give that a try. I mean, it might work.
Okay.
So Caleb, if you're listening, we can argue over this at dinner. But at a high level, this is how business operates, which is a new disruptive technology comes along, either because a previous one tanked and the space was there, or the new one is sufficiently better that people are just going to go adopt it. This still goes back to the car. The automobile was a disruptive technology. People adopted it. And yeah, there were people complaining about these are not horses and they're going to be different. The mistake that we make as security professionals is that we wait until the business moves and we kvetch about it and we say, you shouldn't move until you engage with us. That's never going to happen. They're going to move. So either you have fundamental controls in place that will be helpful in that world, or you're playing catch up. That's basically your two choices. Now, conveniently, when people moved to the web and started to do e-commerce in the early days, there were people who came and helped them. And those are the folks who became the first chief information security officers. We're the people who got out ahead of it. So if you want to advance your career, you should be out ahead of AI and you should be figuring out how you're going to help your marketing team use AI better and more safely. Because what I'm seeing at more and more companies is you have these very lean, agile marketing teams, sometimes only one person doing the work of 6 or 7, and they're using AI for everything. So if you're just screaming, no, you can't do it, that's the failure mode.
Let me throw this back to you. I'm just kind of shifting gears a little bit, Danny. How have your staff, just in terms of running ThreatLocker in general, how have you guys been embracing AI?
So I think there's a few different areas. And the first is the business usage side of AI. And we're talking about vulnerabilities, and things are about to get much worse with these new AI models coming out. Cybersecurity is going to, watershed moment, things are going to get bad. But not nearly as fast and quick enough. But AI is also helping solve those problems. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and we constantly do reviews. We have security teams, we have peer reviews. But at the end of the day, even after all of that, we can throw a piece of code into an AI model and say, tell me potential vulnerabilities in this code. And it will find things that the smartest people haven't found, because it can look faster and quicker, and it helps you move forward as a business. We also use it in various parts of our product, whether it's, and interesting enough, I use it reclassifying or validating a website categorization. In the old days, we would have machine learning and keyword analysis and image analysis to determine the type of website you're going to. And by the way, it's still more accurate than AI today, but with a 96% of sites classified as explicit, correctly classified when you're using keywords. When you use AI, it's like 70% correctly classified. When you combine them together, you could actually get 99 point something percent accuracy, whereas before you could get 95. People often think AI is maybe a better technology, but sometimes it's just supportive technology. And then, of course, we have, in some respect, the benefit of attacks increasing, malware increasing, phishing attacks increasing, phishing attacks getting properly written in English now. And that allows us to deliver good security tools. So obviously, as a company, we also get to benefit from, hey, we're selling the shield here. We're selling the solution.
ThreatLocker is extending zero trust beyond endpoint control. With the recent release of Zero Trust Network Access and Zero Trust Cloud Access, organizations can now control how users connect to both internal systems and cloud applications. Access isn't based on credentials alone. It requires the right user, the right device, and the right conditions. Users are granted access only to specific applications, never entire networks or environments. Now, that matters because attackers aren't breaking in, they're logging in. We've heard this plenty, yes. As we've seen in recent large-scale CRM breaches, stolen credentials and misconfigurations can expose massive amounts of sensitive data. ThreatLocker's Zero Trust Network Access ensures internal resources are never exposed and only reachable through tightly controlled policies. Zero Trust Control Access extends those same protections to SaaS applications. So even if credentials are compromised, access is denied without an appropriate device. It's a modern approach to access control that reduces attack surface and stops unauthorized access before it even starts. You can learn more and start your free trial today over at threatlocker.com/CISO. Do that, threatlocker.com/CISO. And do me a favor, add that /CISO. Easiest way to let ThreatLocker know you heard about them through the CISO series.
It's time to play What's Worse?
Danny, I know you're aware of this game. You've played this game. I always stress that I like it when people disagree with Andy, but I make Andy answer first so you can agree or disagree. This one's an interesting one, Andy. We haven't had one like this before, I don't think. So get ready.
Ooh.
Comes from Carrie Johnson of Fishbusters, and here's the scenario. Two scenarios, I'm sorry. You have metrics that show improvement, but you cannot prove why. So it's showing something's good, but you have no clue how it happened. Or you have metrics that show no improvement, but you know you have had improvement. Which one's worse?
Okay, so this one is funny because it feeds into one of my favorite conversations, which is that most metrics that are in use, especially in the security profession, are perverse metrics. They don't actually show you what you think they show you.
Okay.
And I give like one of my favorite examples is like the average time to patch vulnerabilities, which often has some weird denominator in it. Like, is it the ones that were closed, or is it the ones that are currently open or closed in the period? And in fact, if you go look at a bunch of talks I've done, this is one of the examples I use, like when I say how to build a security program, is make sure your metrics survive against perversity. And I don't mean perversion, just the perversity of the world. Like, oh, if you find new vulnerabilities, you close them immediately, but you only report once a month, nobody will ever see those vulnerabilities in your metrics. but you're like, oh, but I know we did something good. So the underlying question here that I'm actually have to ask is, are these metrics actually really good, high quality metrics, or are they not? And I'm going to actually go with because it's most security programs.
We're gonna assume they're good.
I would assume they're not good.
Well, you're assuming that you're trying to create good metrics.
Because one of the situations is you got better and the metrics don't show it. Therefore, it's not a good metric. If you don't understand how the metric got better, more likely than not, it's not a good metric. Like I once bought from a security vendor a tool that sat on the network and detected lateral movement so that we could find things coming in. And our IT team...
Well, then now we're just blaming the metric, and so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I'm totally going to blame the metric because I think this is a metrics problem. I think that you are worse off if your metrics tell you you're getting better, but you have no idea how you're getting better, because you now are lulled into a sense of false confidence. You didn't actually get better. Your metric just tells you are.
But couldn't this be the Mr. Magoo version of cybersecurity where things are, you're avoiding all the problems as everything's crashing around you?
It's possible that it could be, but let's just go with like what we've normally seen. Like I've seen reports from tools that said, look, everything's great, but it turns out they weren't looking for the right things anymore. They were based on old technology. So our IT team thought everything was golden. Everything was not golden. I'm saying if your metrics claim you're getting better and you have no idea how you're getting better, you're probably not actually getting better. And if you know you're getting better and your metrics don't show it, it's an opportunity for you to figure out what your metrics ought to be.
Okay, interesting argument there. But this is assuming that the metrics are the problem.
I think that being the default state of the world is a reasonable assumption to start from.
Okay.
Because if the metric is good, you should be able to figure it out why it says it's good.
Danny, you don't have to necessarily accept his theory that the metrics are the problem to start with. What do you think here? Again, he thinks the first one's worth metrics that show improvement but can't prove why. He thinks that's the worst scenario to be in versus metrics that show no improvement, but they're right. You're improving.
Okay, I know you want us to fight, David, but I'm going to give a different reason.
Okay, that works too. That works too.
So first of all, let's just say we have a metric and it's very, very accurate that the number of successful phishing attacks has gone down in our company. And we know that it's getting better. We don't know if attackers have stopped attacking or is our security better. So I think the latter is more important. I think you need to know that you've made improvement to your security in a tangible way. That's one example. Hey, my phishing's not gone down, but no one can log into my accounts because we implemented something that does device authentication. Or the other reason I don't agree with the metrics being the priority is if you're using some kind of detection and response tool, you probably have a fantastic tool saying that we've managed to block 50,000 new threats this month. However, when you block everything by default, we don't know whether we blocked any threats. We just know we blocked what you don't need. So I always think the metrics is less important than knowing I've got tangible controls in place. And that's, and by the way, that's not just security.
So are you making an argument that you could survive without metrics if you just know you have the right controls?
If I had the choice of saying you have great metrics, great detection and response versus no metrics, no detection and response, but good controls, I'm choosing good controls all the time. If you had to choose one, I'm always choosing good controls.
That's a good argument right there.
And by the way, that's not just in security. Every time I go to my marketing department, they want to show me a new chart. I don't care about the chart.
Right. This is one of the things I often tell CISOs when they're like, we try to go talk to the board and we don't know what they want to hear. I'm like, only the CRO has metrics that anybody believes, because at the end of the day, cash in bank is the only metric that matters. Everything else is you're trying to tell a story. And if you have the controls, it's a good story. If you don't have the controls, it's just a story.
Please, enough. No, more.
Today's Please Enough, No More is on authentication. Now, we've always been operating on a broken system passwords. When passwords as our form of authentication was introduced, it was broken. So we greatly improved that with MFA, which worked great at the beginning. Now, not so much so. So, Andy, I'm going to start with you. What have you heard enough about with authentication? We're talking about today because this conversation has changed greatly. What have you heard enough about authentication today, and what would you like to hear a lot more?
So I just want to point out that when passwords were first introduced, they were a great system because they were designed to let you get close enough to the Roman camp for the guards to spot you and figure out who you were. That's all that passwords were meant for, was to be like, you're coming up.
What do you mean the Roman camp? I don't know what the history is in that respect.
A password was literally like the word that you would give out to your scouts and hunters.
Oh, right. What you would say to them. Yes.
And this is the word of the day. So when they were coming back in, they'd be like, hey, the password is whatever. And you didn't shoot them right away. You like let them get close enough, and then you would validate a little more.
Yes.
So that was fine 2,000 years ago. We need something a little bit better. They were originally meant for groups, not individuals. But here's, I think, the thing I'm really tired of hearing, which is thinking about authentication of a human.
Oh, definitely that. Yes, that is the story now. It's not just humans.
Most of us do not employ humans. We employ, no, I'm not even talking about the non-human identity problem.
Oh, okay.
But the user that works for you is a user plus a set of devices. And we keep talking about authenticate the human, and what we should be talking about is how are you authenticating this set of the human and their devices? Like the devices should authenticate the human, but over the network, I can't authenticate the human. I can only authenticate the set, and we need to talk more about these sets, whether we want to call them cyborgs or centaurs or like the aircraft carrier commanded by the human, whatever you want. That's what I want to hear more about.
All right. I throw this to you, Danny. First, tell me what you've heard enough about with regards to authentication. What do you want to hear a lot more? Andy wants to hear about life beyond the human.
Andy just stole my answer. So I'm going to say the word identity though in general. And you're right. It is about authenticating more than the human. And the idea of dual factor originally was it's something you have and it's something you know. But the bottom line is it's still a single point. And now, just joining this meeting, just opening the Google Docs beforehand, it was such a pain in the backside to go through the code, the push notification, all of this, my password to get in. And at the end of the day, if I'm a weak user, if I'm a human, I could have given it all away, just as easy as I could have entered it into the computer. So I think Andy's absolutely right. I think the word identity is often referred to as the identity of a person. It should not be the identity of a person. It should be the identity of a person combined with the identity of a device and making sure nobody can access something if it's not from a trusted device. And this is what makes me really, really nervous. We did a pen test a few months ago before Zero Trust World, and we managed to phish, which I thought was 5, but it's 8 of our engineers to put their Office 365 credentials into a page and accept the dual factor push and put the code in.
Ouch.
And it's embarrassing to me because I always thought salespeople, they're going to get phished. Finance people, they'll get phished. Engineers don't get phished. And engineers got phished. So I think the most important thing is I've heard too much about human identity, and we should be thinking about device identity, something that you cannot give away to a very nice man on the phone or a web page.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting you mentioned that it's multiple points. And also some of these points, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, are things that are hidden in the background that are over time, like there are typing patterns. There's where you're logging in from.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways, right? Then this is the problem, which is that goes back to trying to validate that it really is the human.
Right.
And there is a space for that, just to be very clear, like identity proofing, especially in the consumer world, very critical. But in the enterprise world, like here's the question that I'm gonna have for all of our listeners, which is really simple. How many of your engineers ever will log in from any machine that you don't already know which machine it is? Like they have their laptop, maybe they also have a desktop.
That's a good point.
If you are not validating a machine credential, like we did this at Akamai, I don't even want to think about how many years ago now, but it was a lot, where literally we put an X509 certificate on every device and it had the name of the person in the certificate. So it had your username. So the first thing that would happen when you tried to connect is the device authenticated and said, hey, this is Andy Ellis's computer is trying to connect. Then I could do an out of a channel, push it off to Andy to say, hey, is that really you? This is phish proof. Like you cannot get me to authenticate until my computer has already authenticated itself. So my password is useless. And that's the world we need to be in, to say, first we'll trust the computer, then we'll trust the human.
I completely agree. And that's exactly what we've been trying to do with Zero Trust Cloud Access and Zero Trust Network Access is, hey, you can get my Office 365 credentials. You can get me to push a dual factor push. You could try and get me to approve a device, but that device hasn't been approved by the company.
Yep.
Therefore, it cannot get into my account, whether it's Salesforce or Office or anything else. And we have to verify the device first. and then verify the user. When was the last time you heard someone got phished and their phone was stolen at the same time? A lot less likely than someone just got phished.
One thing I want to mention is talking to you and Rob over at ThreatLocker is something, and the reason it's to your philosophy as well at ThreatLocker is that while we think we want to have access to everything and all devices, whatnot, in general, as humans, we pretty much operate kind of the same way. We use the same handful of applications on the same devices over and over again. Yes, you want to make it possible, should someone need to log on to a computer that's not theirs, that they can do it.
Why? No, I disagree right there.
Well, hold on. Let me just throw this out. What I'm more interested in knowing, and I don't know if you have the stats on this, how often does that happen, Danny? Like, if I have a desktop and a laptop, I almost never use another computer. Like, when you've identified the device and the human using it, how often are they not using that device and that human?
So I think laptops and desktops very, very rarely.
Yeah.
I think phones obviously, but again, it's their phone.
Right.
And their phone gets approved. And we've had this whole conversation internally at ThreatLocker. Do we allow personal phones to access? But if we do, they have to be individually approved. Authentication tokens have to be put on them. They can't just say, oh, I'm going to self-approve any phone I want, or give my credentials to an attacker to self-approve a phone. I think the reality is people often think about zero trust as making it difficult for people. But it's much more nuanced than that. Even myself, like most computers, you have access to everything. As a CEO, I've got a lot of access. But that doesn't mean every program on my computer has to access everything I access. So it's really, hey, you have access to these financials using Excel. You have access to the CRM using this browser. You have access to your email from one of these devices. User experience shouldn't be negatively impacted by that, but security is exponentially increased.
But it just do you have any numbers or any insight into if Andy is associated with this computer, this mobile phone, how often does Andy or just anybody who's not already associated to a device try to use another device? Like, how often does that happen?
I don't have statistics but insights is probably more relevant. And here's an example on ThreatLocker. We had, prior to ZTCA, we had more successful logins from rogue devices from attackers than we did from people themselves saying, oh, I want to use my home computer to log into my email. And that's what's terrifying is that it's more likely that someone logging in from a device that is not authenticated or is not a device issued by the company or approved by the company is a attacker.
So it's a red flag, essentially.
Yes.
Right. There's two different things here, right? So one is there's a couple industries where this is not true, where people do in fact use different computers. Healthcare is certainly one of them. Like a doctor with visiting privileges may need to log in to a system at that hospital that's not usually theirs.
Right. Industry would change.
But that's a weird one. But I think what Danny just pointed out a really interesting thing, and what I would encourage everybody to do is think about that use case of the user who wants to use their home computer. I think you only have two reasonable choices. One reasonable choice is you authorize that computer for that user to log in on it, or you make it impossible for that user to use that computer. What often happens is people say, well, by policy, you can't do it, but we won't support you. But then that means you don't actually have a good authentication system in place if you're allowing the person to log in from an unknown computer. I don't even want to use the word trust. I just want to say known. Like when we first did our zero trust implementation over a decade ago, my attitude was, if you've got 12 computers at home you're going to log in on, I'm going to put a credential on every single one of them so that I know that they're yours. We'll worry about trust later, but the first thing I want to do is say you can't log in from an unknown device. Then we'll worry about trust.
How can we secure new technology without creating new risks?
Quote, why pay a vendor $300,000 for a software composition analysis tool when you can build a tailored version during your lunch break? End quote. Ross Young, who is with the CISO Tradecraft, laid out the transformational potential. We've moved from SaaS to service as software, and LLMs have turned plain English into functional code. Every business analyst is now potentially a gulp developer. So if anyone can vibe code a security tool, how does code review even begin? Andy, and if we built it by describing intent in plain English, can we secure it the same way? Can we?
Yeah. So first of all, just as a warning to everything, they can vibe code every solution out there. Almost any company, you could build their basic functionality that they have in a weekend if you're an amazing developer. Vibe coding makes that a little bit faster, but basic functionality is not what people tend to buy. Right? Nobody's buying ThreatLocker, since I've got Danny here, like just to do the basics of what ThreatLocker can describe in 30 seconds. It's the details and the hard work of making sure things work at scale, right? Why do people still use Google? Search isn't hard. Search at high quality is. So be careful. Like if you're vibe coding your SCA, if you wanted really good SCA, you might not get that out of vibe coding. So it's just your cautionary tale. But here's the answer, which is think of your vibe coding agent, whether it's Claude or something else, as a new sort of fractional employee, and you should be onboarding them and teaching them how to do their job. So rather than trying to teach every person in the company how to code safely, what you need to be doing is handing them the onboarding guide for their agent, so that when they say, hey, agent, go build me an X, implicit in that is the skill of, we need to do needs analysis. We need to figure out exactly how we're going to do this. How do we defensively code it? How does this interact with our zero trust platform and with our identity? All of that should be stock and standard so that everything that you go to build meets what your company wants, and it's done so in a repeatable fashion. And that can all be done with intent in plain English. But rather than trying to teach the business analyst how to do that, you just have to give them the package that gets included right into their coding agent.
I like that. All right. Can security solutions be vibe coded, Danny?
I mean, look, we obviously use AI, and the answer is no. And I'll give you another reason, a slightly different reason why. And I think AI is amazing. It's given us the ability to research and understand things much, much faster. First of all, everything it's creating is based on public knowledge. I kind of liken it to a GPS solution that's 98% right on every street. If you go and ask any AI agent right now, say, hey, tell me how to get to the end of the street. It will say, point this degree north to get to the end of the street. And then you'll say, okay, I need to go 3 streets on, tell me how to get to here. And it will say, this far, this far, this far. And you're probably going to get right. Tell it to drive you to San Francisco from New York. And 98% right suddenly becomes really, really wrong over a lot of decisions because you're not going to get from San Francisco to New York when you ask an AI agent which direction to go, because it's going to be wrong sometimes. But also, it's just regurgitating what it can find on public forums and discussions. When you buy a piece of software, whether it's financial software or whether it's security software, you're buying a package that allows every department to interact with each other. So the person who creates the invoice knows nothing about deferring revenue. The person that puts the quote in the system knows nothing about how we invoice them. So when you have 100 people asking for individual functions, they do not fit together. So I think large, complex pieces of software can never be done and built through AI. Small functions can be. So if you need something very small, even a security function, hey, write me a script that automatically locks the Windows lock screen after 15 minutes. Very, very achievable through AI. Tell me everything I need to do to secure my environment. Not very achievable via AI. So I think you can't build a security solution, but you can build individual tools that will solve individual problems, but they won't think about every component. Write me a piece of software that will block software? Possible. Write me a piece of software that understands all of the problems with blocking software? Much, much more difficult.
But then also, well, let me just push back a little bit. Can't you use AI, say, where are because this is something that I've used AI, but just not in security, is where are the areas that I need to be thinking about to secure this piece of software that I haven't considered? And can't the AI start to answer questions like that?
A current piece of software, yes. But to build a security solution, no, because it has to now go and say, and first of all, it's collecting this from public posts. So you have to basically go and take all of this information, conflicting information, and someone has to make a decision. And what makes security companies, what makes ThreatLocker so good is not our ability to necessarily build software right first time, but the millions and millions of endpoints and the tens of thousands of customers that have given us feedback and shaped it. What AI can't do is take all that and turn it into, hey, I've come up with a perfect solution. If you think about the first 100 people that use ThreatLocker, I can promise you it wasn't very smooth. Most of them are still customers, thankfully, but then the 1,000 people gets a little bit smoother, and then the 10,000 people gets even smoother. And that's the same with every single piece of software. AI is going to give you a very, very crude piece of software that doesn't do a great job that you can then refine. And if you want to get something really quick, then that's great. But you can't build a security solution for your company. You can build the bare bones of a software company, but so can any good developer do that in a weekend.
Andy, when we did the recording during B-Sides,
Yep.
this came up, and I asked both Mike Johnson, who's the CISO of Rivian, and Sarah Madden, who's the CISO of Convera, are you dropping solutions by creating an AI solution of your own? And they said yes. Are you seeing this pattern happening?
Well, so what I think there's a nuance here, which is there are more problems than people can afford to buy solutions for. And there's a lot of solutions that are not good. Let's be very honest. There's a lot of vendors out there who are selling things that might as well have just been vibe coded. And so if you're a CISO today, almost every CISO I know is vibe coding something. Most of when they talk about what they're building, it's problems that the vendors haven't been solving for them because it's this like small niche problem that's an irritant. And so someone's like, look, I'll just go vibe code a thing to fix that irritant for me. Or I've got a vendor that I hate and their product doesn't really work, and I can vibe code something that'll give me like 60% of the functionality basically for free so that I can just get rid of that. That's absolutely happening. What I don't hear anybody saying is, I'm going to kick out every single one of my security vendors because I can vibe code it all. That isn't happening.
No, I haven't. No, but they did say that they were kicking some, and it may be like what you described.
Yeah. The ones I see getting kicked out are often the ones that functionally just do data analysis.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a vendor that all you do is you take data from a bunch of sources and you're then going to integrate that and provide a pretty dashboard, you're ripe for being vibe coded out of existence.
Yeah,
I think code review is, I don't know if out of existence is code review is one of those ones that has been.
Right. Code reviews, like nobody was doing good code review anyway. So like vibe coding is certainly helping.
Yeah.
Like you can have model go do code review for you, and it's much better than having humans do it.
All right. We have come to the end of our recording, and I want to thank you, Danny, and I'm going to let you have the very last word, and also you, Andy, as well. But I first want to thank your company, then be ThreatLocker. Remember, if you want to know more about ThreatLocker's Zero Trust Network Access and Zero Trust Cloud Access, go check them out at threatlocker.com/CISO. Remember, at that /CISO, super easy way to let them know that you heard about them from the CISO series. I know that you're always hiring over there at ThreatLocker. Still doing that, Danny? Yes?
Absolutely. Just purchased a new building, got space for another 800 people here, maybe even more.
That is amazing at your growth rate. I'm quite impressed with it. Any last words about Zero Trust Network Access or Zero Trust Cloud Access or anything else you want to say about ThreatLocker, Danny?
Look, I will just say this, and look, ThreatLocker has a suite of tools that makes your life easier as a CISO, as an IT manager, an IT director, to deploy least privilege in your environment, whether call it Zero Trust, call it whatever you want. But I think the reality is security is difficult, but it doesn't have to be. We don't have to chase our tail. We can put simple controls in place. We can do basic things, and we can change our environment from constantly having to fight malware and alerts to actually just being secure without interfering with users' productivity.
Very, very good point. And it's basic philosophy of ThreatLocker, and we're very impressed with it. Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you very much, Andy. And thank you to your company, ThreatLocker, for sponsoring us. And to our audience, as I always say, we greatly appreciate your contributions. By the way, send me in more what's worse scenarios. We need lots more. We greatly appreciate your contributions and for listening to the CISO Series podcast.
That wraps up another episode. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do. We have lots more shows on our website, CISOseries.com. Please join us on Fridays for our live shows, Super Cyber Friday, our virtual meetup, and Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review. This show thrives on your input. Go to the Participate menu on our site for plenty of ways to get involved, including recording a question or a comment for the show. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, contact David Spark directly at david@cisoseries.com. Thank you for listening to the CISO Series podcast.